Jason Domkowski, Director of Law Enforcement Relations for Utility. I'm a retired Chief of Police from West Lafayette, Indiana, home to Purdue University. And joining us today is Chief Jill Lees, Chief of Police at Indiana University, Bloomington, about 200 miles down the road. Welcome, Chief.
Thanks, Jason, for inviting me today.
You're welcome. And I should correct myself. Actually, I think it's about 115 miles down the road that separates our two pristine universities here in Indiana. And thank you for joining us. I'm going to start off with a very, very important and timely question that will set the tone for the entire interview, Chief. So no pressure here.
Oh, okay, I'm ready.
And I know you've been in law enforcement a long time, so take all of that into consideration.
Okay.
How do you take your coffee?
I take my coffee black, straight up, no cream, no sugar, just like nature intended. And that's my drink of choice, definitely every day.
Okay, so that tells me that you've worked midnight shift a time or two in your career to develop a black coffee only preference.
Yes.
Is that safe to assume?
Yes. Early in my career, I really enjoyed night shift when I was with the Plainfield Police Department, and I had all my hot spots of where I could go get a good cup of coffee at night. And I really enjoy it.
So I think that transcends police work. Everybody listening here has worked midnight shift, I would assume. And that does hone you in on some very black coffee, strong coffee in order to stay awake. So today you're joining us, I think, from your office on the campus of Indiana University Bloomington. And I do think there's a bit of a rivalry between Purdue and IU, but we come together today to talk about body-worn cameras. And I'll turn it over to you really quickly with just a quick setup. You guys have been deployed now, I think, with body-worn cameras for a while, and I think in conversations with you in the past, maybe has changed things a little bit on policing in a college environment, especially during this past year. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Absolutely. We deployed the body-worn camera program here at IU PD in August of 2020 in the middle of a pandemic. And so not only does it change how we do things here on a college and university campus, but during the pandemic as well. It really changed the game for me as an administrator because I'm able to use all the features that your company offers to look at specific, different officers' body cameras, to be able to sit in my office and review that footage, and how important that is to kind of look at not only how we are providing police services, but how we partner with other campus organizations, because it's so important that I know you working for the company are always promoting how you can set up the prosecutor's office and you can set up a bunch of different agencies to view that footage. But for us, it's very important that we partner with our Dean of Students Office, Student Affairs, and our Student Conduct for them to look at incidents that might have some potential conduct implications here on campus.
So you're really talking about an audit of how your agency performs, and able to do so that through the lens of the body camera, and making sure you're hitting your benchmarks and your metrics. Is that a good way to phrase that?
Absolutely. So not only are we looking at who we partner with on campus, but how we internally review these body-worn camera footage incidents per se on a monthly basis. We have in our policy that supervisors must review and approve officer footage each month to make sure that they're turning on and off the equipment, or it functions properly, or they're providing good service. But also, I think what's really important that many police agencies are not doing is that monthly response to resistance review, where
Hmm.
we get together as a team statewide to review our response to resistance reports. And this was a huge game changer when we did go to body worn cameras, because before I had the form the officer filled out and was able to match that with the narrative and the case report. But now we have that added element of the body worn camera footage, which then ensures that everything matches up across the board. And it's not just to show officer accountability, but to show exactly what, what's happening, and what we can see that can help us improve our training. It's helped us with creating different conversations. Is this the way we should be doing things? Is this proper tactics?
Hmm.
Areas to improve, training gaps, and all of that. So it's just really important to have that footage that we can go back and review time and time again, or as incidents come up, and be prepared for that monthly review statewide.
So, Chief, you're really talking about, I think, the back end of a system that enables you to use the data that's captured on however your agency seems fit to do so. Um, can you elaborate maybe a little bit on the back end of specifically Avail Web that allows you to gather whatever reports that you might need after the fact of just capturing the video, but what you do with that video then?
Yeah, absolutely, Jason. We take all of that data and we take that information, and we're able to log into Avail Web and say, I want to look at this officer's video to see this traffic stop. Or I want to critique how this shift performed a high risk or unknown traffic stop. So it's really important to be able to see it and see a clear picture of what our officers are doing and how they're training. And I know it helps them so much, because many times I see in our shift comm reports at the end of shift where the lieutenant says, officers came back to station and were able to debrief the situation and review. So it's kind of like our athletes here at Indiana University, they're always watching game film, right? They're always looking at how they can improve, or, where in a situation, I may not know where officer, is in this specific situation, but we train and train so much that now we want to go back and watch that film, and we want to see, did we do this correctly, and how we can improve moving forward, or what we did that was, correct looking at the video.
You're really underscoring a point here of having that video data instantaneously.
Yes.
Not all systems have that capability, but technology exists today for a police chief to sit and watch in their office either live feed of an incident in the field, or certainly an officer getting ready to document and type a report, of having that video available to them within minutes, or live if need be. That security of that video and having it in place instantaneously when you need it.
Absolutely. And Jason, I'd like to point out, you mentioned the live video feed. Our main concern here is the students and campus safety, creating the safe environment through respectful, fair, and impartial policing and community engagement, which is our mission statement. But there was an incident during the night that we all woke up and got on the incident management team bridge, so we can talk about an incident that was going live just on the edge of campus. And it was suggested, hey, the lieutenant was down there and he said, look, my body camera's on, look, this is what the view is. So we were able to look at his view from the street live to see what we needed to do next. And there was a lot of questions going back and forth. Should we evacuate this area? Bloomington Police Department, which we partner very closely, was working an incident, but we wanted the lieutenant to be down there so he can see from our perspective and see from the body cam live feed what actually is happening real time. And that is so vital for me to be able to sit back in my kitchen in the middle of the night and be able to help make decisions that benefit our team and our students.
Complete situational awareness. I think
Absolutely.
back in my own career, Chief, of how many times that would have been so useful in the middle of the night as a phone rings to view something live, but also to be able to pull up at a command center if need be, or in your kitchen at night to see your situational awareness where all of your assets are, all of your people, all of your vehicles on scene through a live map. Have you been able to utilize that feature at all?
Absolutely. I really like that feature when you log in and you can look and see where all of your units are at one time, and how close, if two units are responding to a certain location, where are our other units at? And what's really nice is I'm able to talk with student groups on, they being, these students wanting to be safe on campus, or also wanting to kind of know where our police officers are and how they can help protect them as well. So we've had really good conversations on the importance of officer safety, meaning it's good for the chief of police to know where each officer is on campus, but the students actually bringing up the fact, well, maybe it's not a good idea if every student knew exactly where the police were located on campus, because it might be a security threat to them or a risk to them. And so I really appreciate the dialogue I get back and forth from my different student groups. And I'm also able to share all of the capabilities that the body-worn camera system does provide and how it does benefit them as a whole.
Yeah, you talk about community engagement and in a unique community that you have, and that everybody on campus is mostly of a certain age. They're very technically inclined, and want to be engaged more than probably most communities with their police department. So, any stories you can relate to everybody watching on how the body camera has been able to bridge that gap between maybe your constituents, your students, and the police department?
Um, we work very, very closely with our RPS, which is a residential programs and services, those that run our residence halls. And a lot
Mm-hmm.
of times they will hear a lot of feedback from their living communities on police service provided, or we heard this happened, or we heard this incident disrupted our living community. I know specifically I was able to look at one video and was able to, provide a narrative back to them to say exactly what occurred. And I think that's very important to keep that lines of communication open, not only with the students, but also with our campus partners as well. And that was a very broad stroke of how many different campus partners I sent that email to, because I wanted them to know what occurred in this situation. So I think that's really important. And we do a lot of collaborating with different students, and we are boots on the ground in regards to peaceful protests or different demonstrations on campus, commencements coming up, all of our athletic and special events. And it's so important that we're able to know where our officers are, know kind of what's going on in the interaction with those that they encounter, and how that does benefit us as an agency. And kind of a fun fact that was brought up with our involvement in the NCAA tournament
Mm-hmm.
was that we were escorting buses back and forth, right? And it was, it was noted, well, hey, we don't want to create any accidents or car crashes or wrecks, but we did know we had the security of having a body worn camera that can track our location if needed, and also ensure that we are capturing footage if something did occur. And I can say I personally put 1,200 miles on my car back and forth to Indianapolis with escorting teams personally, and we made it without any incidents. But if we did, we had that security to know that the command in Indianapolis and the command here in Bloomington had the ability to log in and see our locations and to make sure everything was going smoothly.
So you've really underscored the GPS features of the body worn ecosystem and how that plays into a lot of different scenarios and situational awareness. Um, I want to ask you lastly about the automation of the body camera, the ability to turn on the camera automatically, policy-based recording, complying with the policies of Indiana University and their body-worn camera requirements, and that also of use of force. Any thoughts on how that's maybe made your job easier, or also making sure that you have what you need to have of a use of force incident?
Absolutely. Again, we review each and every single response to resistance report, body-worn camera footage, and it's the expectation that our entire command staff, from the sergeant all the way above, reviews that footage, because it's so important that we're seeing what has occurred, but also knowing that whether it's a traffic stop or an encounter with someone, or an arrest situation or any type of other incident on campus, that recording is there, that is getting captured, it's starting like it's supposed to, having that holster sensor that we have and having that capability of when we're clearing buildings, or have our guns drawn out of the holster is very important. And I know that when I review all the footage, I look at the bottom of the screen to see, okay, the holster sensor was activated, or looking at the different features and how that is automated and how that really helps capture all of that footage, and it's different layers to ensure that it gets recorded, right? So if maybe something happens and the officer doesn't mark on scene because it's a very dynamic situation, that holster sensor gets everything going, and gets everything started and gets that recording to where we can then review it. So I think all of that together really helps these features create a good recording for our officers, especially the automated, the CAD automation that we have.
Technology exists today. We never have to ask an officer to do something that technology can do for them, specifically turning on the body camera. Chief
We never
Jill
had
Lee,
that technology, did we, Jason? I mean,
we did not.
we didn't even have a computer. We had a notebook and a ticket book, and that was pretty much it. I had my little filing folder that you put in the back of the car and all the forms in it, but it's just amazing what technology can do for you today. Really is.
Absolutely, the evolution of the body camera in what is offered today compared to just a few short years ago, allowing officers to do more and more efficiently and not having to rely to turn on the button. Chief Jill Lees, Police Chief of Indiana University Bloomington, thank you for your time today. We really appreciate you coming and sharing your experiences with us.
Well, again, Jason, thank you so much for inviting me. And even though you're up north there and you're a Purdue person, I do know that you have strong ties to IU, and I always appreciate our relationship and all the things that you've helped our university create with this program. And we're only going to make it better because we're going to continue to add campuses at Indiana University, equip them with the proper technology we need. So that's very important.
Thank you, Chief. Coffee Talk. Thanks for sharing your experiences with us today.